Listen to me. You've been hurt. You've been disrespected. You've been taken for granted, and right now part of you wants revenge. You want him crawling back, begging for the attention he once dismissed. And I'm here to tell you, you can make that happen. But here's the truth. The way to make someone crawl back isn't about chasing, pleading, or proving yourself. It's about power. It's about control. And it's about shifting the game so completely that he no longer knows how to function without you. Step one, detach emotionally. The more you react, the more control he has. The moment you go cold, the moment you stop explaining yourself, stop begging for closure, stop seeking validation, that's the moment the power shifts. Silence becomes your weapon. Indifference becomes your crown. Step two, glow up with intent. You don't just move on. You level up physically, mentally, financially, spiritually. Posture changes, eyes sharpen, energy radiates differently. Suddenly, you're not the person he left behind. You're untouchable. And nothing makes someone crawl back faster than realizing they lost the very best version of you. Step three, control the narrative. You don't let him define what happened. You rewrite it. When his name comes up, you don't talk about pain. You talk about lessons. You don't look broken. You look like you upgraded. His ego won't survive seeing you stronger without him. That eats at him until he has no choice but to circle back. Step four, scarcity. Humans crave what they can't have. You become scarce. Your time, your attention, your energy, they become luxuries he can't afford anymore. And when he finally realizes he's been cut off from your world, he'll do anything to get a taste of it again. And step five, the darkest tip of all, play the game better than him. When he reaches out, don't rush to answer. When he compliments you, don't melt, stay cool. When he tries to come back, don't make it easy. The harder it is for him to regain your attention, the deeper he'll crawl, the more desperate he'll become. You're not punishing him, you're conditioning him. You want him crawling back. Here's the real secret. You don't need him. The paradox is that the less you need him, the more he'll need you. The moment you step into your power, the moment you stop chasing, stop caring, stop giving him the fuel he feeds on, that's when he'll break. That's when he'll come crawling. So stop waiting for him. Stop playing small. Step into the darker, stronger version of yourself that no one can ignore. Make him crawl. Not because you begged, not because you cried, but because you became the one thing he can't live without. Yourself at full power. Detach emotionally. That's the first and most brutal step. It's not easy, but it's where all the power begins. When you're tied up in emotions, anger, sadness, hope, desperation, you're feeding the very thing that keeps him in control. Every tear, every unanswered text that you stare at, every memory you replay is like handing him the keys to your mind. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop reacting. And in a world where reaction is currency, the one who doesn't react holds the upper hand. You have to see this like a psychological battle. He thrives on knowing he can still affect you. He thrives on seeing you crack, on hearing the emotion in your voice, on noticing your frustration when he doesn't respond. That gives him the illusion of power. So you starve him. You cut the supply. You go cold, and not the kind of cold where you're pretending, but still secretly waiting for him to notice. I'm talking about the kind of cold where your world no longer revolves around his validation. It's mental discipline. It's the art of looking at his message and choosing not to reply instantly. It's the art of hearing his name and not flinching. It's the art of replacing every thought about him with action toward yourself.
Yeah.
Emotional detachment is the ultimate silence. It's louder than words, louder than screaming, louder than begging. When he expects drama and receives nothing, when he expects tears and receives calm, when he expects chaos and receives stillness, he doesn't know what to do. You rob him of his favorite game. Suddenly, the script flips. He's the one looking for reaction, and he's the one left empty-handed. That emptiness is what begins to pull him back. Humans hate a void, and when you create one, he'll try to fill it. But let me be clear. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean you numb yourself and pretend you don't care. It means you channel the care into yourself instead of him. It means you catch yourself when your mind drifts to what he's doing, who he's with, what he's thinking, and you redirect it. Every ounce of energy you pour into wondering about him is energy you could use to build yourself up, to strengthen your identity, to sharpen your edge. When he can't read your emotions anymore, he can't manipulate them. When he can't predict your moves, he starts losing confidence. He questions whether you ever really needed him in the first place. And nothing shakes a man's ego like realizing the one he thought depended on him has become untouchable. Emotional detachment is also about control. It's about creating distance where you once had obsession. Think of it like this: when you're emotionally tangled, he knows he can push a button and you'll react. He knows you'll check your phone, that you'll respond to breadcrumbs. that you'll analyze his smallest moves. But when you master detachment, those buttons no longer work. You're like a safe he can't crack. He tries, but nothing opens. That's power. That's leverage. That's how you make him crawl, because he'll keep trying to figure out why you're so unaffected, why his old tricks don't work anymore, why his presence no longer shakes your world. Silence isn't passive, it's aggressive. It's calculated, it's a weapon in itself. When he texts and you don't reply, that silence speaks volumes. When he calls and you don't pick up, that silence is deafening. When he sees you out living your life without a trace of sadness, that silence is a storm. And eventually that storm drives him insane, because silence doesn't give him closure. It leaves him with questions, and unanswered questions are like poison to the mind. He starts replaying things in his head, wondering if you've moved on, wondering if he lost his grip, wondering if he even mattered as much as he thought. That wondering turns into craving. That craving turns into crawling. Detachment is discipline, and discipline is rare. Most people break. Most people give in to the urge to text back, to check in, to stalk, to let emotions run wild. But the one who masters discipline becomes untouchable. And untouchable is magnetic. He can't stand the idea of not affecting you. He can't stand the idea of losing the control he once had. So he tries harder. He comes closer. He crawls back. But it's only possible because you chose to detach. You chose silence. You chose strength over reaction. You chose power over weakness. The moment you detach, everything shifts. You stop being predictable. You stop being available. You stop being the one waiting. And in that shift, he feels the loss. Not just the loss of you, but the loss of his influence, the loss of his ability to affect your emotions. And for someone like him, that loss is unbearable. That's why emotional detachment is the first step, the darkest step, and the most powerful step toward making him crawl back. Glow up with intent. Not the casual kind where you make small changes, but the kind that sends shockwaves through every room you walk into. This is not about revenge dressing or some temporary flex to get noticed. This is about transformation so deep and undeniable that he can't recognize the person he thought he knew. When you glow up with intent, every detail becomes deliberate. Your body language changes first. You no longer slump, no longer carry yourself like someone waiting for approval. Your spine straightens, your walk becomes purposeful. Your eyes lock with a confidence that says you need no validation. That shift alone creates an aura that unsettles him, because it's no longer the posture of the one he thought he had power over. It's the posture of someone who commands attention without asking for it. Physical transformation matters too. You invest in yourself, not for him, not for anyone, but for the reflection staring back in the mirror. You change the way you dress, not to impress, but to project power. You refine your style until it's sharp, elegant, and impossible to ignore. You train your body not just to look good, but to feel unstoppable. Discipline at the gym becomes discipline in life. He sees the change in your appearance and it burns, not because you look better, but because you look untouchable. The glow up is a reminder that you are no longer accessible, that he lost you at your weaker version, and now he's forced to watch from the sidelines as you rise into something greater. But glowing up is more than the external. The real intent is internal. You sharpen your mind. You read more. You learn more. You expand your knowledge. Your conversations shift from emotional outbursts to calculated statements. You don't waste words. You don't explain yourself unnecessarily. You don't get dragged into pointless drama. That mental glow up is what disorients him most, because the person who once fought to be heard now speaks with quiet authority. He realizes you don't just look different, you think different, and that scares him. A glow up with intent means your energy evolves. You're no longer drained or desperate. You radiate abundance, calm, certainty. People feel it when you walk in, and so does he. He sees you surrounded by opportunities, by people drawn to your new presence, and suddenly he understands he is not the center of your world anymore. The glow up also extends to your environment. You refine your space, your circle, your habits. You eliminate toxicity, remove negativity, cut off people who drain your energy. You replace them with those who elevate you, inspire you, challenge you. Your life begins to look different because you've cleaned out the clutter. When he peers into your world, he doesn't see the old chaos. He sees order, progress, beauty. He sees a person whose reality has expanded beyond what he ever gave. That expansion is devastating to his ego because he can't fit into the new version of your life as easily as he once did. Glowing up with intent also means making moves he never saw coming. You focus on your finances, your career, your independence. You show him, without words, that you don't just survive without him. You thrive. Every achievement becomes a dagger to his pride because it tells him that he wasn't the foundation of your success. He was a chapter, and the story continues without him. Intentional glow up is about building a life so fulfilling that he realizes he lost someone irreplaceable. You no longer need him to validate you because your accomplishments, your growth, your progress validate you more loudly than his presence ever could. And here's the darkest part of it all. When you glow up with intent, it's not about showing him. It's about making him irrelevant in the process. Because when you truly elevate yourself, when you level up in every area, his opinion no longer matters. You stop moving in reaction to him and start moving in alignment with yourself. That's what breaks him. Because as much as he might come crawling back, he will know deep down that your glow up was never about him. It was about you. That realization is what twists his pride, what makes him desperate to re-enter your orbit. The intent behind the glow up is what separates it from a superficial change. Anyone can change their hair, their clothes, their feed online. But an intentional glow up is a reinvention of identity. It's about becoming so aligned, so confident, so elevated that he can't touch you, can't influence you, can't manipulate you. Anymore, you don't just look better, you are better. You don't just seem stronger, you are stronger. You don't just act untouchable, you are untouchable. That level of transformation creates gravity. He will feel the pull even when you're not trying, because energy doesn't lie. When you glow up with intent, you're not playing his game anymore. You're not reacting to his absence, you're building presence. You're not proving him wrong, you're proving yourself right. And the irony is that the more you detach from needing him to notice, the more he notices. Because humans crave what they cannot access, and the more powerful you become, the further out of his reach you appear. That is what makes him crawl back. He doesn't crawl back because you begged or because you waited. He crawls back because the glow up exposed his mistake, because he sees with painful clarity that he lost something extraordinary, because the version of you that stands before him now is no longer the one who once tolerated his nonsense. The glow up with intent becomes a mirror to his failures, and he won't be able to escape the reflection, control the narrative. This is the part most people underestimate, but it's where the entire game shifts. When someone walks out of your life, they don't just take themselves with them, they take a story. They create a version of events, sometimes twisting reality, sometimes leaving you painted as the one who lost, the one who suffered, the one who was weak. And if you let that story stand unchallenged, it becomes the truth in the minds of others, and worse, in your own mind. That's why controlling the narrative is essential. It's not about lying, it's not about exaggerating, it's about seizing authorship of your own story so no one else writes it for you. The first step in controlling the narrative is deciding who you are now. Are you the victim, or are you the one who grew stronger? Are you the one left behind, or the one who walked forward? Every word you speak about the situation, every action you take in public, every piece of energy you put into the world adds to that story. When you speak of the past, you don't do it with bitterness or self-pity. You do it with calm acknowledgement, as if it was simply a chapter in a much larger book. That tone alone disarms people. They expect anger, they expect pain, but when they see composure, when they see strength, it rewrites their perception. You're no longer the one who was broken, you're the one who transformed. Controlling the narrative also means refusing to feed gossip. People will ask questions, people will dig, people will want details, but you give them nothing that weakens your image. Instead, you make it clear through your behavior and your words that you're focused on progress, on growth, on living. You replace every chance to complain with an opportunity to shine. You let them see that while he may have been part of your past, he has no control over your present. And when that consistency builds, the narrative around you becomes undeniable. People stop associating you with the breakup. They start associating you with resilience. The narrative is not just external, it's internal. The way you tell yourself the story matters most. If you sit in silence replaying the betrayal, the rejection, the pain, you become the victim in your own mind. But if you reframe it, if you tell yourself he didn't break you, he revealed you, he didn't leave you, he freed you, then you shift the power dynamic. You transform from abandoned to liberated, from wounded to awakened. That reframing is how you break the cycle of self-doubt. The story you repeat to yourself will echo in your posture, in your tone, in your energy, and he will sense it. He will sense that you no longer see yourself as the one who lost, but as the one who gained. That perception will eat at him because it denies him the satisfaction of being the hero or the villain. It makes him irrelevant. The way you control the narrative socially is equally important. Social media becomes a stage, and every post, every picture, every update is a message, whether you intend it or not. If you're posting desperation, he wins. If you're posting anger, he wins. If you're posting nothing but subtle digs at him, he wins, because that shows he still occupies your mind. But when you post progress, when you post joy, when you post wins, when you post life moving forward at full speed, you control the narrative. The audience no longer sees you chasing the past, they see you building the future. And eventually he sees it too. That silent proof of your evolution becomes a torment he can't escape. But narrative control doesn't stop with what you show. It's also about what you withhold. Mastery is powerful. When you don't give people every detail, when you don't explain what you're doing, who you're seeing, how you're feeling, curiosity grows. That curiosity breeds speculation. And speculation almost always inflates your status rather than diminishes it, because people fill in the blanks with their own imagination. When he hears about you and the details are vague, when he sees glimpses of your new life, but not the full picture, his mind works overtime. That's how you trap him in uncertainty. And uncertainty is more powerful than clarity, because clarity ends the story, but uncertainty keeps it alive. Another layer of controlling the narrative is how you carry yourself when paths cross, when you run into him, whether it's intentional or accidental. You don't crumble, you don't shrink. You present yourself as calm, centered, elevated. You don't overtalk, you don't overshare, you let silence do the work. You let your composure communicate that the story he thought he knew is no longer true. That single interaction can flip the narrative entirely in his mind. Suddenly, he's not looking at the person he left. He's looking at someone transformed, someone untouchable, someone he can no longer define. The narrative you control also extends into the circles you both share. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances, they all observe. They will talk, they will compare, they will pass judgment. And every time your name comes up, they should be forced to admit that you came out stronger. You don't beg for them to see it, you show them through action. The career advancement, the physical transformation, the peace in your energy, those are the chapters of the story you're writing now. And every time he hears about it from others, every time it's confirmed by people he knows, the grip of the old narrative weakens until it's gone. The darkest truth about controlling the narrative is that once you master it, he no longer controls the memory of you. He no longer gets to tell people what happened because your actions drown out his words. He no longer gets to tell himself you needed him because your life without him is proof you didn't. He no longer gets to hold the story hostage because you've taken the pen back. And when he realizes that the world doesn't see you as the one who lost, but as the one who rose, it destabilizes him. It forces him to question himself, to doubt his choices, to crave your validation again. And that craving pulls him closer, crawling, searching for the story where he still matters, only to discover you've already rewritten it without him create scarcity. Nothing in human psychology drives desire more powerfully than scarcity. People always want what they can't easily have, what feels limited, what seems rare. When something is abundant, it loses value. When something is scarce, it becomes priceless. And this same principle applies to you. The mistake most people make after a breakup or betrayal is flooding the other person with attention, reactions, explanations, even anger. All of that screams abundance. All of that says, you still have me, you still control me, you still occupy my time and energy. And when you are abundant, he feels secure. He knows you're still there. He knows he can reach out whenever he wants. He knows he hasn't really lost you. That's why creating scarcity is the weapon that flips everything. It forces him to feel the loss, to feel the gap, to feel the cold absence where once there was constant warmth. Creating scarcity starts with your time. You stop making yourself instantly available. You don't answer every call, every text, every attempt to bait you into responding. You pull back. You create space. At first, he might not notice. At first, he might even dismiss it. But slowly, the silence grows louder. Slowly, he realizes that the attention he once took for granted is no longer there. That absence gnaws at him. It makes him uncomfortable. It makes him crave the very thing he dismissed. Scarcity forces him to confront the reality that access to you is not guaranteed anymore. Scarcity also applies to your energy. You stop pouring yourself out in desperation. Stop explaining yourself endlessly. Stop showing him every side of you whenever he demands it. Instead, you conserve your energy. You redirect it into your own life, your own goals, your own growth. And when he tries to tap into it, he finds nothing waiting for him. That denial of energy is brutal for someone who once thrived on feeding from your emotions. He's left starving, chasing, crawling for what he once consumed without effort. But scarcity doesn't mean hiding completely. It means showing up strategically. You let him see glimpses, just enough to remind him of what he lost, just enough to spark curiosity, just enough to ignite hunger. A single post where you're thriving, a single moment where you're glowing, a single sighting where you're radiant and unbothered. That's enough. You don't overwhelm him with updates. You don't overshare. You don't flood him with proof of your progress. You release it like breadcrumbs. Small, deliberate, powerful. Each one creates a craving for more, and the more he craves, the more he crawls. Scarcity also applies to physical presence. If you once made it easy for him to see you, now you don't. If you once stayed in the same places, followed the same patterns, gave him predictable access, now you disrupt that. You disappear from the places he expects you. You appear in new environments, ones he can't control. That unpredictability creates tension in his mind. He can't predict you, can't track you, can't place you. That lack of access drives his obsession higher because the less he sees you, the more he wants to. Another layer of scarcity is conversation. When he does get the chance to speak to you, you don't give him everything. You keep it short, controlled, intentional. You don't pour your heart out. You don't let him pull you into long emotional exchanges. You leave him with questions instead of answers. You leave him with silence instead of closure. And that silence, that gap, that scarcity of words becomes louder than anything you could have said. He replays those short moments in his head, desperate to extract meaning, desperate to fill in the blanks. Scarcity works because it creates contrast. He remembers when you were abundant, when you were available, when you were always there. Now he feels the drought. That contrast magnifies his sense of loss. It makes him nostalgic for the abundance he once dismissed. It makes him chase the attention he once ignored. Scarcity transforms you from ordinary to extraordinary, from replaceable to irreplaceable. He realizes that no one else gives him what you gave him. And worse, he no longer has easy access to you. That realization burns. It eats at him until he can't ignore it anymore. The beauty of scarcity is that it works on every level of his psyche. It triggers curiosity because he no longer knows everything about you. It triggers insecurity because he wonders if someone else now has your attention. It triggers fear of loss because he realizes your absence feels permanent. It triggers desire because humans always chase what they can't reach. And it triggers obsession because the less of you he gets, the more of you he wants. Scarcity is not about playing games. It's about reclaiming value. It's about positioning yourself as rare, as precious, as untouchable. But the key to scarcity is authenticity. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to move on while secretly checking your phone every 2 minutes. Scarcity only works when it's real, when you truly shift your energy away from him and into yourself. When you genuinely live a life so full that you no longer have time to cater to his needs. That authenticity is what makes the scarcity powerful, because he senses the difference between a performance and reality. And when he sees that the scarcity is real, that you are genuinely unavailable, genuinely unbothered, genuinely thriving without him, that's when panic sets in. That's when he realizes he has lost something he can't easily replace. Scarcity also changes the balance of power. When you are abundant, he has the upper hand. He knows he can push a button and you'll react. But when you become scarce, he loses that control. He can no longer predict you, can no longer rely on your reactions, can no longer feed on your attention. The power shifts entirely into your hands. You control the rhythm. You control the pace. You control the access. And in that shift, he begins to feel what it's like to be on the outside looking in. He begins to feel like the one chasing, the one waiting, the one crawling. Scarcity is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's the realization that your attention, your energy, your presence are luxuries, not entitlements. And when he realizes that he no longer has unlimited access, when he feels the absence of what he once took for granted, when he sees glimpses of you thriving, but can't touch it, can't own it, can't control it, that's when the desperation kicks in. That's when the crawling begins. That's when scarcity breaks his illusion and forces him to face the truth. You were never the one who needed him. He was always the one who needed you. And now that you've become rare, now that you've become scarce, that truth becomes undeniable. Play the game better than him. This is where the true reversal of power happens, because once you understand that he was never just acting from love, but also from strategy, you stop playing with emotions alone and start playing with tactics. He used silence before, now you master silence deeper. He used inconsistency, now you make inconsistency your weapon. He left you guessing, now you leave him in a maze where every step he takes brings him closer to frustration. Playing the game better doesn't mean stooping to pettiness. It means outsmarting him in the very field he thought he dominated. He believes he knows your patterns, your weaknesses, your emotional triggers, but once you elevate, once you shift, once you become deliberate in every move, he realizes he no longer knows how to read you. That confusion alone pulls him back, because humans are addicted to puzzles, and you just became the unsolvable one. When he reaches out, you no longer rush. You let the phone ring, you let the message sit unread, you let the silence stretch. That space unsettles him, because once upon a time, you gave immediate access. Now you don't. That delay speaks louder than words. It communicates that you no longer prioritize him, that your world doesn't revolve around his interruptions, that your attention must be earned. When you finally do respond, it's not with paragraphs, it's not with explanations, it's with control, short, composed, calm. That contrast leaves him thirsty for more because he can feel that he has lost his grip on your emotions. He realizes that no matter how hard he pushes, he can't pull you back into the old rhythm. Playing the game better also means reframing interactions. When he compliments you, you don't melt like you once did. You don't give him the satisfaction of seeing you light up because of his approval. Instead, you accept it with grace but not dependence. A simple thank you, a calm acknowledgement, and then you redirect the energy. That subtle shift destabilizes him because compliments were once his currency of control. Now they bounce off you without effect. He no longer controls your highs and lows. That's how you break the pattern, by refusing to feed into the same scripts he relied on before. Another element of playing the game better is unpredictability. He thought he knew how you would respond to every situation, how you would show up, how you would engage. But now you change the rules. Sometimes you're warm. Sometimes you're distant. Sometimes you're unavailable entirely. Not because you're being fake, but because you've stopped living for his expectations. That unpredictability is maddening because it denies him stability. He can no longer predict whether you'll be there, whether you'll answer, whether you'll engage. And when someone can't predict you, they can't control you. That lack of control forces him into a state of obsession because the human mind craves certainty. Denying him certainty is how you keep him chasing. To play the game better, you also need to weaponize indifference. Indifference is more powerful than anger, more powerful than revenge, more powerful than words. Anger shows you still care. Revenge shows you're still invested. But indifference shows you've moved beyond his reach. When he tries to provoke you, when he tries to guilt you, when he tries to charm you, you don't give him the emotional reaction he craves. You remain calm, detached, unshaken. That indifference slices deeper than any insult could because it tells him that he no longer matters enough to stir you. And once he realizes he can't move you emotionally, he begins to crawl, desperate to test if he still has any effect at all. Playing the game better also involves creating standards he can't easily meet. Where you once accepted crumbs, now you demand consistency. Where you once tolerated excuses, now you require actions. Where you once gave chances, now you give boundaries. And when he tries to re-enter, he discovers that the doorway is narrower, higher, harder. He can't just walk back in with the same casual effort. He has to crawl, he has to struggle, he has to prove himself. And that struggle is what reverses the dynamic because suddenly he is working to win back access, working to earn what he once took for granted. You also control the pace of the game. You don't let him dictate when conversations happen, when meetings occur, when intimacy is allowed. You set the timing, and if it doesn't align with your life, it doesn't happen. That pacing puts him on edge because he no longer feels in charge. He's forced to adapt to you, to wait for you, to wonder about you. And the longer he waits, the more the craving grows. That craving transforms into effort, and that effort transforms into crawling. Another way to play the game better is by mastering presence and absence. When you are present, you shine so brightly, so effortlessly, so confidently that he can't ignore you. But then, when you withdraw, the contrast devastates him. He goes from abundance to nothingness in an instant, and that roller coaster destabilizes his sense of control. He begins to anticipate, to long for your presence, to crave the light you bring. And because you're the one controlling when it happens, you control the entire rhythm of his emotions. That's the ultimate power shift. You move from being reactive to being the one he reacts to. Playing the game better means being deliberate with every move. Nothing you do is accidental. Every silence, every response, every interaction carries intention. He begins to realize that he no longer has the upper hand because while he's reacting impulsively, you're moving strategically. And strategy always beats impulse. You're not just surviving his behavior anymore. You're mastering it. You're redirecting it. You're using it to fuel his downfall. The final and most powerful part of playing the game better is this: you never make it easy. Ease was his playground. He thrived on knowing you'd forgive quickly, that you'd respond quickly, that you'd accept little. Now, nothing is easy. Access is hard. Attention is hard. Affection is hard. Everything requires effort, patience, consistency. That difficulty grinds on him until his pride erodes. He starts chasing, he starts proving, he starts begging. And when he finds himself in that position, crawling for what he once dismissed, you know you've mastered the game. Because the one who once thought he was in control is now the one trapped in your strategy, the one desperate to win back what he lost, the one crawling not because you demanded it, but because you played the game better than he ever could